Squished09 asks, is guitar? You guys are the worst, and the video's over. In this video, you can ask me any question, and I will answer it. Before we get started, you'll notice that y'all have never seen me in this setting before, and also, the place is an absolute wreck. I moved, and I got this big new studio, so this is pretty sweet. I got a lot of big changes going on right now, which is why the upload frequency has dropped, and it's also why I was just like, alright, I know it's not going to be a beautiful shot, but I just got to make a video. I got to check in with everybody, make sure that they know I'm not dead. So this video is going to be a little bit more laid back, just kind of unscripted, hanging out style video. Captain Brash says, first of all, your channel is amazing. Thank you, Captain. Do you have any advice for a returning player who feels a bit lost? Yeah, so the advice for a returning player or an absolute beginner is pretty much the same, and it's number one, check out my guitar playing roadmap. It's a bit of a shameless plug, but I made the video for a reason. I like to think, at least, it's a pretty good resource. Number two is try to specialize just a little bit. Instead of trying to be a very general player, focus on exactly what your goals are. So if you just want to play good enough on acoustic to sort of like, accompany yourself singing, just do that. If you just want to play lead electric, just focus on that. Try to pick one thing and make that like your thing with guitar, and I think that'll kind of anchor everything else and make learning a little bit easier. Which song to get girls? Well, there's a couple options. There's several good ways to go. Calisthenics Mastery asks, do you plan to make your own online course at some point in the future? Because I would be interested. You're a great teacher. Well, thank you. It's a very kind question. The answer is maybe, but I get asked a lot, so let's talk about it. So you guys know that I don't really monetize the channel very heavily. I don't have a course to sell. I don't do sponsorships. I'm not on Patreon. I do get a little bit of revenue from the ads that YouTube puts on my videos, but it's not much, and honestly, if it wasn't for YouTube being incentivized by the juicy 45% of my ad revenue, then I don't think the algorithm would push out my videos. But anyway, the reason I don't do a lot of that stuff is because I have this guiding principle for my channel that I always want to be providing you guys value. And this is kind of also the reason that my style, if I can, brag just a little bit, I like to think that I am good at getting to the point. I think that my style is very lean and that there's not even I try to make it so there's not even 1 second of fat on the videos. I worry that if I was just wasting time in the middle of a video telling you guys to go check out Raid Shadow Legends or something, not only would I be not providing value and thereby violating my principle, but I would actually be asking for value from you. So you can see why I'm not super hot on the idea of getting monetized to the gills. That said, it does take an incredible amount of time and effort to make the videos. So if I could find a way to continue to provide value and just do it, with a course or something that could actually, earn a little bit more money, then I'd be open to that. And I actually do have an idea for a course that I've been kicking around in my head. I wouldn't want to do like the video on demand style where you just pay some money and get access to some videos that aren't on the channel. I would want to do something that incorporates, feedback and accountability, because those are kind of the two things that I struggle to provide to people with the channel. But this is actually a topic that I would like y'all's feedback for, and I normally don't ask you guys to comment. I'm not just engagement farming. Seriously, I just want y'all's thoughts on this. Would you guys, besides just calisthenics mastery, be into a course? Would an ad read, like in the middle of a video, be something that y'all are into? Like I said, maybe I'm not into it, but maybe you guys don't care. What do you guys think? Let me know. GDH3598 asks, everybody else's chords sound better than mine, even on the same guitar. What should I do? You're probably, if you're kind of in that beginner, intermediate skill level, you're probably not hitting the guitar hard enough. This is a super common beginner intermediate pitfall, but yeah, a lot of times it's just right hand technique, and it comes down to really just hitting the guitar harder, getting more volume out of it. Amy Garcia asks, would you be willing to make a series of bass lessons as well? If I had more time, I would love to do this. I've daydreamed about the fact that if I had a bunch of hours, I would learn different instruments and then just make my entire channel but copied onto different instruments. So it would be just exactly my channel, roadmap and everything, just like for piano and for bass and for whatever instrument I'm interested in. I think that'd be really fun. Although currently I do suck at bass, and I have no right teaching anybody anything about the instrument. James Made Jam wants to know, what's my favorite punk band? I'm going to go Green Day. They got some songs I really like. Chocolate Soda 3964 asks, favorite nu metal band? I don't know if it really counts as nu metal, but it's at least nu metal adjacent. I really like Five Finger Death Punch. When I was 17, I really wanted to buy a Martin 0028. but I didn't have the money, so I got a job washing dishes at a local burger place, and the guys who worked in the back of the house always played a lot of nu metal, and mixed in was Five Finger Death Punch, and I found out that, like, nu metal fans don't really consider them nu metal, but that was certainly my favorite band out of the mix. Gar Kumaun asks, I can't sing with guitar. I've been playing for 6 months, and I can play, but as soon as I start singing, I break the rhythm. What advice you got? My advice would be try to land on a certain beat. So don't try to think about like singing and playing as like a perfectly like linear thing, like these two lines are both happening at the same time. Just make sure, like, pick a word in a song and make sure that like that word lands on a certain downbeat that you know is coming up. And if you can kind of line up enough of these like waypoints, then eventually you'll be able to sing and play guitar at the same time. Phil Brook, who I notice comments all the time. Thanks for being interested in the channel, Phil. Phil asks, can you give us a taste of what you're playing at venues? Well, right now, nothing, because I'm not currently in a band and I'm not currently gigging. When I was in college, I was in a cover band, and that was a lot of fun. We got to be pretty decent towards the end there. And we would play like a lot of classic rock, some pop stuff, some funk stuff, kind of the stuff that you expect to hear like a college cover band play. On the subject of gigging, I do plan to gig again at some point in the future. I've never actually founded a band of my own, so I kind of want to try that out. And I want this next band to have a horn section, I think. Another question from Phil. He says, what quick tips can you give that helped you memorize the fretboard? I actually already made a video on this subject, so go check that out. But the best tip in that video is to learn how to identify an octave. If you can understand what an octave is and where it's located on the guitar, then you can figure out most of the notes from just learning like 1 or 2 strings. When should I learn power chords? Immediately. They're pretty simple and they're a lot of fun, and you should learn them right now. I started playing guitar 5 days ago and already watched most of your tips / guides / roadmap videos. Any other suggestions for a newbie? No. Those videos pretty much cover it. I occasionally update the roadmap video, but no plans for an update right now. I think it's currently a very complete list, so you're good to go. Hello, Kevin. Do you like Radiohead? Yes. Captain Brash says, another question, how do you turn scales into actually learning lead? Okay, this is a great question. I touched on this subject in the pentatonic scale video that I did like a month or so ago. And basically what you want to do, you want to learn scale shapes and then see solos from guitar players that you love and try to map those onto the guitar so you can see the scale shapes at work. I'll make an in-depth video on this at some point, but that's kind of how you do it. You try to see the scales in the solos that you like. Andrew Hilsebeck asks, what was the song that made you want to become a guitar player? For me, it was the first time I ever heard Hell's Bells at age 8. Yeah, that's a good one. For me, it was Sweet Home Alabama by Leonard Skinner. My dad had gotten me it's called a first act guitar, and it's more of a guitar-shaped object than a real guitar, but he got me for when I was... But he had gotten it for me when I was like a little kid, and then when I was 14, I had been playing violin in my school's orchestra, and I heard Sweet Home Alabama, not for the first time, but I just heard it, and I wanted to play it, and I couldn't really play it on my violin, and so I picked up this old guitar that my dad had gotten me years ago, and then like 8 years after that, Da Cool Dude 1 says, I'm struggling to give myself structure. Could you make some kind of roadmap with the things you have to learn in order? Yeah, you're going to like it here. Z4850 says, about tabs. I understand which fret to use, but I do not understand how to play it. Do I play just one string, strum it, or whatever? Usually if it's just one note, then you're just playing one string, but I wouldn't sweat learning tabs. Tabs is not like standard notation, which is like a very broad musical skill. It kind of helps you understand music generally, and it applies to a lot of different instruments. Tabs is just kind of the still photo equivalent of watching a tutorial video. So don't sweat tabs too much. Sean Robinson asks, do you have a recommended method to learn intervals? No, I don't. Just struggle in tears, brother. Lil Llama 9789 asks, I find it really hard to get motivation to learn more on guitar. I only know some bass chords and stuff, but everything just feels like a giant leap up. I end up playing 3 or 4 songs I know over and over and then get discouraged and put it down. Any tips? Yeah, number one would be try to learn songs that you really, really enjoy. If you only learn 3 or 4 and you just play those over and over, try to learn a couple of more songs. If you can kind of always be bringing yourself back and keeping yourself interested with great songs, then you're in a good spot. Currently, I'm just learning songs by using guitar tabs, but I was wondering if I should learn theory as well. Yeah, like I said before, don't sweat the tabs, and you should totally learn theory. It's easy, and it's super useful, and, people get so intimidated by the word theory, but, playing guitar is just taking guitar theory and actually putting it on a real guitar. Part 2 to this question, also, would you make a video in the future where you present different kinds of guitarists, like the acoustic strummer or the, crazy electric solo player, and give tips about what to focus on and what's not important for each type? Yes, I think this is the direction I'm going to go with the in order format of videos that I make for a little while. Absolutely going to do that. Brett Shivers asks, I am remarkably new to playing guitar, so there's that, but I find my forearms and fingers become fatigued rather quickly. Do you have any hand-wrist warm-ups you'd recommend? Not really. Just play a little bit to warm yourself up. Some people kind of stretch their fingers out like this. You can do that, but I usually just play a little bit and, don't push it too hard. Give yourself 5 minutes of just noodling around or something, and usually you're pretty good to go. Before we move on, though, as I always say whenever somebody gives me a question about finger pain or soreness or fatigue or something, everything I've ever said is a joke, and if you're having a medical event, please go see a doctor. Please don't sue me. Maduke22 says, thanks for all your efforts. I just want a video about recording guitar and pedals and amp basics. Yeah, I should do that. I don't want this channel to become like a gear channel, which is why I very rarely, if ever, talk about gear on the channel, but I think that would be useful, so maybe I'll do it. Vigar Brennan 1710 asks, how do I learn how to use the pentatonic scales? Check out my pentatonic scale video I made just recently. It's called How to Play the Pentatonic Scale Fully Explained. Second half of that video will answer that question. And then he also asks, and also, what makes a chord, for example, minor or major, or an open or a major seventh? P.S. You're my favorite guitar YouTuber. You've been super helpful. Well, thank you very much. As far as what makes a chord major or minor, basically chords are made up of groups of 3 notes called triads, and those notes are the first, third, and fifth note of the corresponding scale of the chord. And if that third, it's what we call a major third, then it'll be a major chord, and if it's a minor third, it'll be a minor chord. I'll make a video going into depth on this at some point. An open chord is not like a music theory thing like we're just talking about. That's just like a bass level guitar playing thing. All it means is that there's an open string in the chord that you're playing, so like you wouldn't refer to an open chord if you're talking to like a piano player, for example. And a major seventh chord, as well as like a minor seventh chord or any other kind of seventh chord, is a triad that has a seventh added. So we just said that a triad is the building block of a chord, and that's the first, third, and fifth note of a corresponding scale. Well, a seventh chord is just first, third, fifth, and seventh of the corresponding scale. I made a video on open chords that explains some of this, and a video on seventh chords that explains a little bit more of it, but it sounds like you're interested in harmonic music theory. Pure Macayanal asks, what other hobbies or interests do you have? Well, thank you for being interested in me personally. First of all, making YouTube videos. Making YouTube videos is a completely separate hobby and skill from making guitar. I understand the subject of my channel is guitar stuff, but they're not at all related. I enjoy photography, which is very closely related to videography, which is clearly, integral in the videos. And I really, really enjoy writing. Making videos is mostly writing. It's not like fiction writing, although I do enjoy that as well. I just don't do it very much. But, it's thinking about information, how I want to present that, and how can I make this interesting. I'm thinking about pacing, which is inherently tied to, not telling a story, but there's some storytelling elements that go into making a good video. And kind of related to the writing thing is movies and TV. I think in an alternate universe, I maybe have a movie review YouTube channel instead of a guitar instructional YouTube channel. Can't say that username. What are intervals? How can I learn them, and how can they be useful for learning the fretboard? So intervals are distances between notes within a scale. You can learn them just by dry memorization. I'm not sure if they'll help a lot with learning the notes of the fretboard specifically, but still a very useful concept. How can I realistically memorize the fretboard and be able to improvise in any of the fret positions? If you're looking to improvise, and learn the fretboard to a lesser degree, scale shapes are your best friend. So check out the pentatonic scales, learn all 5 positions of that scale, and then once you're done with that, move on to the 7 positions or the 7 modes of the diatonic scale. Tagliatelle asks, how good a guitar do I need to be in order to play on stage without causing every actually skilled guitar player to shake their head in secondhand embarrassment at me? Great question. The answer is, in reference to my guitar playing roadmap, you could get away with level 4, you'd be much more comfortable at level 7. Which basically means that if you know everything up until like basic bar chords and the 2nd position of the pentatonic scale, then you could kind of stumble your way through, and so long as you had like really good timing and you were a good hang after the show, everybody would probably be cool with you. But once you learn like 7th chords and all 5 positions of the pentatonic scale, then you're going to be just a lot more comfortable. Ninu asks, is there a practice routine someone could use to get better at guitar? When I practice, I don't know what to do, and I just keep repeating the same riffs for half an hour. Yeah, so I usually recommend that if you have whatever amount of time you have to practice, use half of it practicing boring stuff and half of it practicing songs. So half of it should always just be songs that you like, and the other half should be like technique stuff. So, think scales, running through chords, working on timing with like a metronome, that kind of thing. And that's kind of the practice routine that I use and I recommend to everybody. I get scared that I'm stealing a riff when I make things up, and I'm sure I am like a little. How do I overcome that? Is it just a dumb fear? Yeah, I mean, everybody steals a little. Was it Picasso who said that good artists copy, great artists steal? You never want to rip anybody off, but you're going to be influenced by stuff. When I first started this YouTube channel, I was basically just trying to be Paul Davids and Rhett Shull. But, eventually you kind of find your own voice. I found what worked for me. You kind of double down on it. It's not exactly songwriting, but it is a pursuit that's not too dissimilar. Is there anything else one should focus on for mastering fretting other than practice, practice, and practice? No. Midnight and Mittens 5183 asks, would you think paying for guitar lessons is a waste of money if I could learn most of what I need online? I have my first lesson tomorrow. Probably not, but maybe. I've talked about this a little bit before, but if what you're trying to get out of the lessons is the information, then it probably is a waste of money. What I didn't realize until the channel kind of got going and I got to interact with, several of you more, is that a lot of times the information isn't why people get lessons. It's more like, accountability and feedback and that kind of thing. If that's what you're there for, if that's going to help you become a better guitar player, it's probably worth it, depending on the price. I don't know how much your teacher is charging. But if you're just there for the information, especially at the very beginner stages, then I am going to say that it might be kind of a waste of money. Again, if you're just there for the information. Jeremy Wilson has a long question, but he's asking if he, a left-handed player, should try to find a lefty instructor or a righty instructor, me, who he resonates with a bit more. I'm not a left-handed player, so I don't know. I can tell you that I don't imagine it would make a huge difference. I think you could just mirror everything I was doing with my right hand, with your left hand, and you pretty much be fine. If you haven't gotten that far into guitar playing yet, my general advice is try as hard as you possibly can to play right-handed. I know it feels awkward, and I know it's, not very natural, but guitar isn't natural for anybody when you're first starting. I get that it might be harder for lefties, but it's not like it's easy for right-handed players. And generally, logistically speaking, it's going to be so much easier to enjoy guitar as a right-handed player. As far as what instructor you should get, I appreciate you saying that you resonate with my style, but just go with whoever you resonate with, me or otherwise, lefty or righty or whatever. Like I said, you just mirror what I'm doing with my right hand, and try to be a righty player if you can. The guitar world is unfortunately biased towards the right hand. Joshua Gogo asks how to read strumming patterns on tabs. This symbol means down and this symbol means up. That's how they do it in standard notation, but again, tabs is just the Wild West, so don't worry too much about it. Electric Tunic 3364 asks, how can I create my own melodies or riffs on guitar? It's been such a struggle of mine for a while, and I'd really like to escape it. Yeah, I mean, start by just like modifying melodies and riffs that you already like that exist in the world already. Through either idiosyncrasy or creativity, you'll be able to make your own stuff by modifying that stuff. Graves says, "Hey Papa Kev, I'm currently saving for the Ibanez Tim Henson signature for my first guitar. Do you think that's a good idea for a first guitar? Should I buy something more wallet friendly like his nylon string, or maybe just a budget electric?" Dude, I can tell through this YouTube comment that you're excited about the Tim Henson signature, and that's the most important thing. So, yeah, I mean, if you can afford it, get the Tim Henson signature. Get the one that you're excited about. Sue Want asks, "I've watched your video on switching chords. The trouble is not the exercise itself, but what chords I should learn first. Some I find more difficult than others. What order of chords do you think a new player should learn first? I also want to ask, what tempo should I aim for in BPM?" It's a great couple of questions. As far as the chords that beginners should start with, I'm going to go ahead and recommend the 7 essential open chords that I talk about all the time. It's going to be E minor, E major, A major, G, C, and D. But even within those 7 chords, there's gradations of difficulty, and I'm going to say the easiest ones are the 6-string chords. So E minor, E major, and G. As far as what tempo you should aim at, whatever tempo you need to play a song that you want to learn. A good rule of thumb is start off at like 40 beats a minute and try to work your way up to like 140 beats a minute. That'll do it. Thank you guys so much for the questions. Thanks for, just a chill, unscripted, kind of hanging out style video. I really, really enjoy doing these. Maybe we should do the next one as a live stream. Anyway, thanks for watching.